everybody, welcome back to the channel. Now in today's video, I want to share with you something a bit about the Pixel 8 Pro that I've been using for almost 2 weeks now. So in today's video, it might be slightly longer than usual. There might not be a lot of B-rolls, a lot of rolls of the phone itself. But in today's video, I just want to share with you my thoughts after using this device, a couple of my personal experiences from this Pixel 8 Pro. So let's begin right away. Now in today's video, I want to talk a little bit about the things that I felt worked for me and a couple of stuff that didn't really work for me with this device. So let's start off with the good things, what really worked, and of course the number one thing that really worked for me is actually the cameras at the back. Now I'm not going to go into the amount of megapixels that the camera has, but what I can tell you is that the camera is actually very capable. Again, it surprised me every time Google releases a new Pixel phone. So I took a lot of photos back in my trip in Korea, and I liked something, and that is actually the optical zoom here very much, because the amount of detail they was able to capture with that 5x zoom is just insane, guys. Other than that, with the software all around, it makes the overall picture just look even better than what you would expect from its rivals. So very impressed with the cameras at the back. It's not just that 5x zoom. Overall, the entire experience with the cameras on the Pixel 8 Pro is actually very good. I did post a couple of shots on my Instagram Reels about this phone. If you want to see more about those zooming capabilities, you can go and check that out there. So that's the cameras. The second thing that really impressed me is actually the design. Now previously, I wasn't a fan of the Pixel's design. I know that Google is going with sort of like a common identity for all their Pixel phones moving forward. So we do have that strip at the back. In fact, the first time I took a look at the pictures itself, I wasn't too keen on the design. I did not particularly like the blue version. I just felt that it didn't look my kind of color, but this particular color, guys, I think this is definitely the kind of color that I will rock. And the back panel here obviously is made of matte materials. It's the kind that doesn't capture any fingerprints whatsoever, so it's super smooth all the time, and I barely even use a case. So far, it's been holding up really well. Now on my previous Pixel 7 Pro, without using a case, the camera module at the back here actually got scratched up pretty easily. I think it got scratched just like 2 or 3 days after using it, but this one here is actually, I think, more durable. I'm not sure what they did to change the materials, or maybe it's still the same, but somehow it didn't scratch as easily as I thought, because even without using a case for the entire 2 weeks in Korea, everything still looks brand new. So that's definitely good there. And again, take a look at this color, guys. I think it just looks fantastic. The official case that came with it is also very nice to touch. It just feels very premium and all that. So yeah, that's the second thing that I really thought worked for me on the Pixel 8 Pro. Now moving on to the third item that really worked for me here, and that is actually quite a surprising one, and that's actually the battery life, guys. So I'm actually quite impressed with this battery life. I was using it in Korea mainly for navigating the maps, taking a lot of photos, videos, using my social media. I've logged into all my accounts on this device here, and it's actually held up pretty well. Like for instance, the entire day went by, I was using it heavily, and by the end of the day, I actually still had like 30 to 40% remaining. I did not actually check the screen on time, so I can't give you a fixed number, but what I can say is that the battery life did held up very well. Now moving on to the fourth and final thing that worked really well for me, and that's actually in terms of the software. Now I'm sure a lot of you already know that we have this like sort of stock Android on the Pixel 8 Pro. It works very nicely. It's super fast, super quick. Everything that all the navigation on the phone itself is so smooth. I've used a ton of Android smartphones, and this one, the smoothness levels on the Pixel 8 Pro is just next level. Now let's move on to the parts that I did not really like, or I should say did not really work for me, but you guys might not actually find it annoying at all. Alright, so let's start off with the first one, and that's actually the buttons on the right. Now just take a look at this. Try and listen to the sound here, guys. The sound, the way these buttons are made, somehow feels like it's not that tactile. I'm not sure how to say it, but it doesn't feel that good. It feels like it's like sort of made in a cheap plastic kind of material. So the buttons didn't really work for me, and I still couldn't really get used to the lock button being on top of the volume rocker. Usually on other phones, it's either the other way around, or you either have one button on the left and one on the right. So again, that's just a personal preference. Now the second thing that didn't really work for me is actually the face unlock. So somehow the in-display fingerprint scanner did not really work very well. Like there were a lot of misses, and the face unlock, I registered my face like twice, and sometimes the phone just wouldn't unlock. Alright, now the third thing that didn't really work for me, I would say, is actually in terms of the display. Now I'm not sure where I read that the brightness levels was actually actually supposed to be one of the highest, but again, in Korea, where I was just walking around the streets trying to take photos, I noticed that the brightness wasn't particularly bright. It was not to the level where you could take photos very easily. Sometimes I couldn't really see the display, and I'm not sure if it's my unit, but just the brightness levels were not strong enough. Other than that, the display is actually perfect. Everything is very smooth. It's just the brightness levels that is affecting me a little bit. Now, the last thing that did not really work for me, I think it's actually in terms of the stereo speakers. Now, this is a small problem because I don't really listen to music on the phone speakers itself very often, but I noticed that the volume wasn't very loud when I was just trying to play some social media like TikTok and Instagram Reels. I noticed that the volume just wasn't as high as I would expect it on other phones. So it's just not that high, but obviously most of the time I use earphones anyway. So it's just a small problem that bugged me a little bit. So at the end of the day, how can I sum up the experience with the Pixel 8 Pro? Well, definitely I would say that this is still a phone that I love very much, and this is something that I might actually want to keep and use. So that's saying a lot because I do have a lot of Android phones. The entire experience is still something that I would recommend to people looking to get a Pixel phone. If someone asks me like, is my feeling positive or negative for the Pixel 8 Pro, I would say that it's definitely on the positive sides. There's a lot to love about this phone, guys, especially the new colorway, which I think just works very well. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Pixel 8 Pro. Oh, one final thing that did not really work for me is actually the price, guys. The Pixel 8 Pro now is so expensive, and it's probably due to the currency rate here in Malaysia. Malaysia's ringgit is not really trading very well, and again, it depends on which country you're from. Maybe your Pixel 8 Pro is more affordable at where you are at, but here in Malaysia, it's definitely not cheap, and I'm not sure even if the 5G works on every single network out there. So please don't quote me on that. With that said, thank you for watching today's video to the end. Let me know your thoughts on the Pixel 8 Pro. If you have any tips on how I can enhance my overall user experience, please do share them with me. I'm always looking to learn something from you guys as well. With that said, thank you for watching. See you guys in the next one. Bye bye.